How's it hanging, people? The name's Pcuspard, and what a way to spend a late evening in October than talking about Nintendo controllers!
I have nothing better to do today.
Compared to the other two console manufacturers, Nintendo's always been looking for a way to separate themselves from the norm and make their games as interesting to their consumers as possible. For example, let's take a look at the 3's controllers during the 6th generation. Well, there are definitely some differences between the Duke and the DualShock 4, one major difference that my wife will be happy to tell you about. As a whole, the controllers have a similar face button layout with 4 buttons arranged in a diamond pattern. The GameCube controller, on the other hand, fared quite differently in terms of looks. For example, having the B, Y, and X buttons orbit the A button, which made sense for GameCube games since the most common used button was A, like the X button on a PlayStation controller. This would extend to the 7th generation as well, and by extend, I mean they decided to hire Mr. Fantastic. The Wii definitely had a different kind of controller, to say the least, with it being a remote where you could also attach a nunchuck to give it an analog stick and a Z and C button. The Wii U with its massive gamepad for off-TV use, as well as the Switch Joy-Cons, which can be used in a variety of ways on their own, and as a pair. Nintendo is always out to try and innovate the ways gamers play games, though not all of these gamers like these changes, and would rather just have something simple and well-known to hold. So today we'll be taking a look at these labeled Pro controllers. That title takes me back. Imagine making money for playing games. Now, while technically not a Pro controller, the line technically started with the Wii Classic controller in 2006. The Wii had a virtual console, and considering how fucking awkward it would be to play Super Mario 64 with the Wiimote, the Classic controller was made as a substitute to play these games in a more common fashion. Being designed off of a SNES controller, it also adds 2 analog sticks that are super goddamn close to each other, along with the L and R buttons, which are analog, which I find kinda surprising considering none of the games on the Virtual Console had analog button inputs, though I guess one could make the case that it was for the very few Wii games that could actually use the Classic controller. The controller also had 2 triggers labeled ZL and ZR. This controller is definitely decent for when I don't want my sensor bar to spaz out on me on a hot summer day, but it definitely required an evolution, which it got in the form of the Classic Controller Pro. Now this is more like it. The analog sticks are further apart from each other, the L and R buttons are digital instead of analog, the Z triggers are actually damn triggers, plus thighs to make it more comfy to hold. I love the Classic Controller Pro. Oh, and I also like how it can be used on the Wii U for some games as well. Speaking of, the Wii U Pro Controller. Aw, damn. The Wii U Pro Controller is certainly a controller. It has all of the buttons the gamepad had, minus the TV remote and the NFC reader for the amiibo. Now, I don't personally own one myself. I borrowed this one from a friend of mine who does, and that friend's opinion is radically different from mine. I'm not a fan of this controller. Why are the face buttons on the bottom? It worked on the Wii U gamepad because it was fucking huge! The Pro controller feels cramped and congested, to be perfectly honest. Everything feels so small on the controller. The buttons feel like a goddamn afterthought. Another issue I have with the controller are the triggers. They just feel weird. They're designed like a 360's controller, but the biggest issue with that is that while the Xbox 360's controller's triggers are analog, the Wii U Pro controllers aren't. Well, it's definitely got a better battery life compared to other options for playing Wii U games, with 80 hours on a single charge, as well as being allowed on way more games than the Classic Controller Pro. I'd say you're better off using a gamepad at the Classic Controller Pro if you've got to get that Classic Controller type feel. Man, if only there was a Pro controller that suited my needs perfectly! Ow. The Switch Pro controller was marketed as Nintendo's ultimate controller. And not gonna lie, I completely understand that. The buttons feel so damn good to click. The analog sticks and the D-pad are at the perfect sizes. The triggers feel nice and clicky. Amiibo support, a long-ass battery life of 40 hours on one charge. God, I love this controller! It's like they mixed the 2 best Nintendo controllers together and made something truly beautiful. For those who want a more classic way to play or just want a better D-pad than on the Joy-Cons, this is for you. Though, if you're on a budget, I'd say wait a bit, as not only are the Joy-Cons perfectly fine on their own, minus potential drift, but the Switch Pro controller is sold for $70 normally. I don't know when this shit got started with controllers being so damn expensive. I would assume it would be due to manufacturing costs as well as what's going on in them, but if you want my opinion, either wait it out or shop the sales. This controller's worth every penny. So go ahead and tell me which of the three is your favorite. And with that said, guys, I'm Pcuspard, and see you next time!